Good afternoon.
Let's give him a big round of encouragement applause. If you can stay there on the sign.
Where's the hexagon?
That's the X.
Am I here? Well, I can follow that enormously enriching presentation with something rather more nitty-gritty, more down-to-earth and detailed and technical. I ask for your patience as I go through some energy statistics. But ultimately, the story behind my presentation is about the electric vehicle, the EV, and whether or not there's a chance that there could be an EV for everyone. Because at the moment, of course, EVs are less than 1% of the vehicles that are sold, and a fraction smaller than that of the vehicles that are on the road. Now, let us remember the peril that the planet faces, and on Monday, the World Meteorological Organization published yet further evidence of this, with carbon emissions now, or greenhouse gases now surpassing 400 parts per million, when in the industrial age, 200 years ago, there were less than 200 parts per million. And so the threat to the atmosphere keeps rising, and the question is, where do these threats originate? I'd like to look at these two pie charts for a moment. On the left, you can see the source of these greenhouse gases, which are principally carbon dioxide, but also include methane from cattle, from melting permafrost, and nitrous oxide and other man-made emissions, which are attacking the envelope that protects the Earth from the sun's power. Now, within the carbon dioxide criminals, if you like, it's transportation that is now the biggest threat of all. It used to be power generation, but nowadays, in Europe certainly, in America, the amount of carbon dioxide being emitted is now from transportation that it is the largest proportion, and it is from transportation that it's growing fastest. Now, in the generation of power at our power stations, this is a very significant chart because it shows the decline of coal, the decline of gas. It shows that nuclear continues its role in supporting the grid, but it's wind and solar that are today's growth industries, and if that can be sustained, you can imagine the effect that's going to have on reduction of CO2 emissions. Over in the UK, a windy place, not so sunny, the amount of coal we now burn in power stations is almost none. We've got 4 power stations still burning coal, and they are due to be phased out by 2024. And instead, we're building onshore and offshore enormous amounts of wind energy, as well as solar, which in southern Europe, these proportions are the other way around. And so you can see that the Western economies are doing what they can to offset the growth in carbon emissions from power generation. In China and India and the rest of the world, it's a different problem, but they too are observing these trends. So, wind is our hero, sun is our hero. And at one point last summer in the UK, sun and the wind combined outperformed the burning of gas, oil, and a little bit of coal for the first time ever. And in due course, we're going to see 65% of our generation coming from these renewable sources, because these are the villains. In the middle, we have CO2, but alongside him stand nitrous oxides, sulfur dioxide, and on the right, PM, that stands for particulate matter, soot, in other words, very small particles of unburnt fuel that come from the exhaust pipe of our traffic. And CO2 and global warming apart, it's air quality that is the more immediate threat to our lives in our cities, especially to our young people on the way to school, in the playground. Air quality in Europe's cities is bad and getting worse, and these are the consequences of it. So it's the vehicle that is at the heart of the problem. Italy comes off worst of all, but the UK is no hero in this respect. These bars show the number of deaths attributable to nitrous dioxide air pollution. So, We're not doing nothing about this. There's plenty of regulatory and manufacturing action taking place in the electrical vehicle market. And these are just some of the episodes in recent times that have been announced. Some of these are fairly significant indeed. And we all know about Tesla. I'll be talking about Tesla in some detail in a moment. But the last point here, the demands by Extinction Rebellion to be carbon neutral by 2025, I'm sorry, that isn't going to happen, but it will be achievable by 2030, 2040, 2050 if we practice certain ameliorations of our carbon emissions. Now, I'll talk to you about Tesla a moment, and I'll talk to you about batteries. This is a liter of diesel fuel, and this is a battery. Now, a liter of diesel contains 10,000 watt-hours of energy. A kilogram, or a liter is a kilogram in effect of diesel. A kilogram of batteries, that's to say 40 of those, contains only 250 watt-hours per kilogram of energy. In other words, 1/40 of the energy of diesel. You cannot beat diesel or petrol for energy per weight, which is why batteries are so heavy and costly. Now, I rented a Tesla for a few days. It was a phenomenal motor car, but it weighed an enormous amount. And this is one of the reasons why. It contains 7,104 of these. These are called 18650 cells. That's to say, this little chap here, slightly bigger than the AA battery that you would power a consumer product with, but these are the workhorse of the battery world. In addition, there are things called pouch cells. And this is an example of a pouch cell as found in something like a Renault Zoe or a Nissan Leaf. But they all need to be encapsulated in fireproof envelopes, as you see here. There's only a small portion of that huge weight that is actually battery. The rest of it is support systems, impact resistance, fire protection. It's a complicated business. And not only that, but there are 8 or 9 different types of chemistry of lithium that you can choose to power your vehicle by. And you can see from this chart here that some are expensive, some are unsafe, some don't last very long, and lithium has vulnerabilities wherever you look, for fire, for safety, for life, and for cost. And our job is to try to reduce all those risks and make lithium behave, to tame it, if you like. The other thing about lithium batteries is they used to be extremely expensive. And the good news here is the price of lithium batteries is falling like a stone. At the moment, it stands at about $200 per kilowatt hour, and it's heading down below 100. And at that point, the competitiveness between a battery-powered car and a diesel or petrol-powered car is eliminated. At the moment, they're 30, 40% more expensive. But it's just a matter of time before the volumes of battery, the volumes of cars, come down to the same price of an internal combustion car. And so the battery industry is looking to reduce its costs, increase its energy, increase its safety, double its life, operate at all kinds of temperatures, cold or hot, and be, above all, recyclable. These are huge challenges, and they're not going to be achieved in a hurry. So out of 38 million vehicles on Britain's roads today, there's only 100,000 of them are all electric. Even I'm a fan of electric vehicles. I drive a hybrid because I cannot rely upon a battery to do all my journey's work for me. But the trends are here, the trends are clear, and by 2040, this is Bloomberg's forecast, they expect to see electric vehicle sales overtaking those of the ICE, the internal combustion engine. But with all these vehicles on the road, with all those batteries powering them, they all need to be recharged. How and where are we going to charge them all? It's not possible to imagine having a petrol station in the front of every house, and yet the EV people believe that we're going to be able to have a charging post on every house. Now, I have one of these on my house, but it only does a small job because it's quite low powered. Let me explain to you this following chart. The charging post on my house delivers at the rate of 7 kilowatts, and I've got a 14 kilowatt hour battery. Therefore, it takes 2 hours to charge my battery from this low-powered unit, 7 kilowatts at the house. If I have a very big battery like a Tesla, it's going to take 9 hours to charge it at home, which is not only just overnight, but more than overnight. And so you've got to have high-powered charging out there in the public. And until you've got to 50 or 150 kilowatts, you're not going to get even down to a fraction of the time it takes, of the expectancy that people have to charge their cars. We've got to be able to find a way of charging vehicles quickly. Until we do that, they will not be widely used. And so this is what our National Grid white paper says. I'd like you to take the moment to digest these important points. Home is not going to be the place to charge a vehicle. Half of the homes in our country don't have even a place to put the vehicle, never mind charge it, because they're in apartment blocks or in narrow streets where you can't get parking connected to the grid. So, if we want a world in which all cars are going to be electric, one solution will be to build a few thousand super-fast charging forecourts. That's to say, like today's filling stations. Forget the street, forget the home, let's build a few very large fast-charging forecourts. Now, if you do that, and the charging time of those forecourts remains the same, it isn't going to solve the problem, because what you need is a new kind of battery. And that's what the Zap&Go project is all about. We have developed at Oxford a new type of battery which is a supporting partner to lithium. It's called carbon ion, and it comprises novel nanomaterials able to accept the charge extremely fast, and is very robust and will charge and recharge safely many thousands of times. It contains no lithium and has none of the drawbacks of those lithium batteries that I mentioned earlier. It does, however, have weaknesses. It's not able to do as much work as a battery. It doesn't last as long with the charge. But it has all the counters to the weaknesses of lithium. And therefore, this points to the clear solution of a hybridization, a matching of carbon ion and lithium ion in the same place. This way, the charge is taken fast, and we protect the delicate lithium from damage from fast charging. And therefore, the filling station of the future will combine lithium batteries and carbon ion batteries in a giant subterranean hybrid storage. And let me picture this for you with this video. In any given filling station, there are giant subterranean tanks full of diesel. In the future, there will be giant subterranean containers full of carbon ion cells.
Today, the filling station plays a central part in modern life. A place to fuel our cars, shop, and buy services. The evolution of electronic vehicles will see a revolution in these filling stations. Zap&Go will be at the heart of that revolution. Much like existing fuel distribution, fueling stations will add large underground batteries to store the charge locally. These large energy stores will be filled up at night at off-peak rates using green electricity. Drivers will charge up from the energy stored in the underground batteries, not directly from the national grid. As more and more drivers switch to EVs, these underground batteries will need to be refilled more quickly. To meet this peak demand, just like a fuel tanker today, stored electricity can be delivered via truck-mounted Zap&Go carbon ion storage. Carbon ion technology allows rapid charge of underground batteries in the station in a few minutes. Zap&Go carbon ion storage is non-flammable and safe. With a charge held locally and Zap&Go fast charge technology in place, the e-charging station can operate with the same speed and convenience that people are used to with conventional fuel. Zap&Go technology allows for a complete charge of an EV battery in just 5 minutes. The safe storage system allows for the rapid turnover of mini vehicles. And the unique fast charge technology will allow fuel and power delivery to meet the growing demands of EV charging without costly and prohibitive changes in infrastructure. By using the existing refueling network, driving and charging an EV is as quick and convenient as drivers expect with their conventional vehicles.
Thank you very much. That's it.
That is immensely impressive, I must say. You will have a chance. It's the charging station, probably. You will have a. We can dance if you want.
Come on.
Oh no.
Hi.
I don't know any British dances.
Dad dancing is all I do.
Okay, don't. Now you can chat with Simon for. He has a whole hour with the people in mezzanine upstairs at the conversation. He will have a conversation with Claudia Pavarini after lunch. I have only one small. I know we're late, but I can't help it. A small question. At one point, you said that you can charge your car in the time that it takes to fill up your gas tank. You might in the future.
You might.
You might. What about my phone?
Well, the phone. I'm glad you asked me that.
You have a
Here
very
is
interesting
tomorrow's version. Now, today, the Zap&Go cell is the size of a small book. But remember the big phone, but you're too young to remember how the phone was the size of a brick. And now, now that is the size of a phone battery. So if we can advance our technology by leaps and bounds, we can get close to the energy density of a lithium cell. But it's a long shot, because we are big, and we need to be big to keep the energy. So I'm shifting. We did originally set out to build power tools and charge phones quickly, but we have shifted towards larger establishments like the filling station, because the size and weight of lithium, of us versus lithium, it's very hard to beat. We're up against the laws of physics, and lithium is the king. Our job, therefore, is to protect and enhance lithium, give it longer life, make it safer, rather than to replace it. So that is our next nirvana.
My special, don't tell this to anybody, but I would like to get rid of lithium one day. Good, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Simon. It was a pleasure to have you with us.